Hi everyone, welcome to another video in this playlist, and this is all about 10 of the key topics that will probably come up in your Edexcel GCSE that you need to be really secure on if you're going to go for that grade C. So we've got the list in front of us here. We're going to work our way down the list, and this video is looking at the first one there, questionnaires. So let's have a look at some questionnaires. Question number one here then, good typical type of GCSE question, so we can have a look at the key concepts to this topic, so hopefully that's going to be a few marks in the bank for you. Gary wants to find out how much time teenagers spend listening to music. He uses this question on a questionnaire, then we've got the information there. Write down 2 things wrong with this question. Okay, so let's quickly summarise all of the things to look for in a questionnaire to make a questionnaire a decent questionnaire. The first thing you need to look for is that the question that's being asked has a time frame attached to it. So that's our first thing that we need to look for. So by that we're talking about if the question's asked per week or per month or per year. So it doesn't matter what the time frame is, but it does need to have one. The second thing we're looking for is a 0 option. So for people who are going to answer the questionnaire that don't do the thing that they're talking about. The third thing we're looking for is that the boxes don't overlap. And what I mean by that is that, let's say for example one of the options was 0 to 2 and the next one was 2 to 4. 2 appears in both of those boxes, so if someone was going to respond and say 2, technically they could answer either box, which would be wrong. It should only ever be that they could answer one box and no more than that. The fourth thing we're looking for is that the final box is what we call open-ended, and that means more than or plus or greater than or over, so that if there was an extreme answer that was kind of way off the spectrum that we were looking for, that person could still be able to answer. The fifth one that they tend to put on the mark scheme is that there are more than 3 boxes. They don't really specify how many you have to have, but they're suggesting that at least 3 to be able to say that you've got a reasonable spread of options for the person to answer. So we're looking at those 5 things. What we're really looking for is a set of selections of boxes so that we can have what's called exhaustive answers, so that every answer possible could be answered but only answered once. So let's have a look at Gary's one here. He's got, how many hours do you spend listening to music? So the first thing there, straight away, there's no time frame on the question. So he should have said something like, how many hours do you spend listening to music per week? So the first thing I'm going to put is no time frame. Now let's have a look at his option boxes. Well, he's got 4 boxes, so that's fine. So it kind of does this rule number 5 here. The first box starts at 1. So number 2 are 0 options. That's not been obeyed. There isn't an option for someone that doesn't listen to music or that wants to answer no hours. So I'm going to say no 0 answer possible. Now, technically I've just picked up the 2 marks in my GCSE, but let's have a look whether there was anything else that was wrong with his boxes here. We've got 1 to 5 and then we've got 5 to 10. So if we were asked for a third one, we could also say that the boxes or the options overlap. And by that, as I was saying to you earlier, if I said I wanted to listen to music for 5 hours exactly per week, I could tick the first box or I could tick the second box, and that's not something that we want in a decent questionnaire. So there's actually 3 things wrong with this one. His final box is over 20, so it kind of ticks this 4th one. We're only asked to put down 2, and when the examiner marks your work, they will answer the first 2, even if the 3rd one or the 4th one or the 5th one was an even better answer. So make sure you only put down the number that they ask for, and make sure the ones that you do put down are your very best attempts. Part B then of the same question, we're asked to design the better one. So basically all we have to do there is obey the rules that we just talked about. So the question that he should be asking would be something along the lines of, how many hours do you spend listening to music? And then we need to put our time frame on there, so we put per week. If you've put per month or even per day, that would be absolutely fine because you've given them a time frame to relate to when they have their answer. Then we want at least 3 boxes, so I'm going to go for 4. Now I want my first box to make sure it starts at 0, so I might go 0 to 2 hours. My next box now can't start on 2, so I'm going to have to start at the next whole hour, which is 3, and I might go to 5. The next box has to start above that, so I'm going to start on 6. And then this is a common mistake here. A lot of people here would now put 8 plus. We've included the value of 8 hours in this box, so we now say 9 or greater. So 9 plus. So that would be a good answer to pick up those 2 marks. The second question we've put in the booklet here, just to have a look on this topic, is one that rarely comes up, but it is on the curriculum and it has come up before, and it's something that tends to throw a lot of students. So let's have a look at the question we've got here then. Sam wants to find out what types of film people like best. He's going to ask whether they like comedy films, action films, science fiction films or musicals. Design a suitable table for a, and here's a new word that we didn't have on the first question, a data collection sheet. Now, the easiest way to think about this one, this sort of response that we looked at on 1, if we just kind of go back and have a look at that one, this is for someone to kind of, with their pen, tick a box. This is for someone to have an individual response to, so it's been handed out to them as a questionnaire, they've ticked their box, they've handed it back in. A data collection sheet is for someone like in a supermarket, they've stood there with a clipboard, they're asking you the questions as you go past, and they're ticking off your responses rather than giving out individual responses one by one by one. So what a data collection sheet is looking for is what's known as a tally chart. So we're going to have 3 sections, and this question hasn't asked us to ask a question, it's just asked us to design the suitable table. And in here we're going to have the options. And in this particular example, the options are the types of films. So we've got comedy, we've got action, sci-fi, and also musical. Then what we have, and this is the important part, and these are where the marks are picked up in the exam, we have a column that we have to header as tally. So this would be the place where the person collecting in the information kind of puts the bars off in there as the people respond. And then our final column mathematically is known as frequency, but you would get away with if you would rather call that total, but try and get into the habit of using the correct maths language. So this is a data collection sheet. It's for someone to collect data on kind of quickly, easily, multiple responses rather than having to hand out single questions. Right at the very end then for this quick video looking at one of the key topics for grade C is Sam collects his data by asking 10 students in his class. So we've got 2 key pieces of information there. The fact that he's asked 10 people and the fact that they were all from his class. This might not be a good way. Give one reason why. So we've only got to give one reason, and remember, like I said on the question before, if you give more than that, they're only going to give value and marks for the first one that you've given. So make sure you only give one and it's your very best attempt. There's 2 possibilities here. I think one of the answers would be that he's only asked a very small sample. So we could say small sample size, and that could be a completely valid reason because you want to ask more people to get a better opinion, a better spread of answers. Or, and remember we're only giving one reason, so let's pretend we didn't give that one. We could say he asks similar people because they're all from his class. So not only are they all probably the same age, but they probably also share similar interests. So he asks similar people who are likely to have similar interests. And if you wanted to be really fancy, you could go on and say that's likely to lead to bias, I suppose. So there's one of the key topics, questionnaires. Usually turns up on one of the first couple of questions in the exam. As long as you obey those 5 easy rules and you know the difference between a questionnaire and a data capture sheet, those should be a few marks in the bank towards getting your grade C. Thanks guys.